The solution of every problem begins with identifying a problem correctly, as healing always begins with the right diagnosis of a sickness. And today we'll begin to speak about how to identify or diagnose what is the real problem, the real sickness behind the struggles that you are living at this moment in your life, so that you may get to a solution, healing, a transformation. I know that you want to become a better person and solve family problems, health problems, financial problems, your spiritual problems, but maybe you don't know where to begin. And today here we are going to start to follow an itinerary that the Word of God itself gives to us. And we find this itinerary there in the first chapter of the book of Joel in the Bible. We are going to read this chapter. Actually, I'll read with you a verse. We'll start from the beginning of the chapter with you here now, and in the following days we're going to dive into more details into this chapter. And it would be good for you to read the whole chapter in your Bible for you to learn how to open your mind regarding this subject. When we speak about this diagnosis, this is exactly how Prophet Joel started his message to the people in his time. There on verse 2, it's written like this: "Hear this, you elders, and give ear, all you inhabitants of the land." So you see here that he was directing his message first of all to the elders, who were the leaders of the nation at the time, and from the elders to all the inhabitants of the land, to the whole nation. And he asked them a question without precedent, a question that provokes a diagnosis. The question that he asked was, has anything like this happened in your days, or even in the days of your fathers? That means Joel started calling the people to look at their own reality, to their own situation. Have you ever seen like this? What you're living today, has ever happened in your life before? As long as you have been alive or in the life of your fathers, has anyone lived anything like this? That means he was inviting people to look at their own lives, to make a self-assessment, and to see themselves, their reality. Because to make this self-assessment can be something transforming to anyone's life. Because any change or any healing first has to go through a diagnosis. The identification, the correct identification of a problem. And many people, they never find the solution or the healing for their problems and sicknesses in life because they have never identified, they have never found diagnosis or the real diagnosis to their problem or what is behind it. So they live their lives running in circles without knowing how to attack the root of the problem. When Joel asked that question, has anything like this happened in your days? This that is happening in your life, has it ever happened before? The answer that he was expecting was obvious. No. What was happening to the people at that time had never happened before. But let's be honest, not always what is obvious to those who are living that problem, that situation. And this is a struggle that every human being has, of getting used to what is bad. As human beings are highly adaptive, there is a tendency to get complacent with what is bad. I believe you have already entered into a certain environment, be it the house of someone or your workplace, and as soon as you enter there, that closed environment, a bad odor of that place annoyed you, and you, wow, how bad is the smell? There's a foul odor here. You smelled there, and maybe you didn't say anything out of politeness, but you felt straight away after you entered because you're coming from outside. But the person who was there inside, they are not smelling anything. Why? Because they are already used to it. So what it's obvious for you, it's not for them. And Prophet Joel, he had to declare what was obvious, to ask that question to them, because not always the obvious is obvious for the one who is in that problem, within that situation. Sometimes it's necessary for someone to point out the obvious, the situation that the person is living, in order for them to see where they are. It's like a mirror being placed in front of them. It's like to put the finger in that wound for them to say, ouch, because they are already used to that pain. And the people was in this exact situation. They were going through a destruction that was new, something that had never happened before, in every layers of society, since those who were in the field to the homes, the commerce, the government, and even the temple was already being affected. This destruction, a generalized destruction, and the people was dealing with that as it was something normal. So what did Joel do? He called attention to the people to that situation that had never happened before, an unprecedented situation, to awake the people from that spiritual sleep. And he started to point out to each group of people in society what was the unprecedented situation that they were living. He spoke to the elders who were the leaders of the people, the guides of the people. He spoke to them and said to them, you were supposed to be guiding the people in the midst of this calamity, but you are lost. So the guide is blind, the guide is lost. He pointed to the farmers and told them, can you see this plague? How the plague consumed your whole harvest. You don't have any harvest. You sowed, but you did not reap anything. The locusts took everything. The plagues destroyed everything. He pointed to the priests who were working the temple and told them, have you noticed that you don't even have offerings to present to God? Because if the people is in misery, of course they don't have any offerings to present there in the temple. And Joel spoke even to the drunkards. He spoke even to the drunkards. Do you know why? Because the drunkards, they represent a group of people that when they are facing difficult problems, they dive into addictions to distract themselves and not to think about the reality. But the prophet spoke even to the drunkards. Have you noticed that there's no wine anymore? So he started to point out the diagnosis, to show to the people that they were living and going from a plague to another. It was a plague upon another, one abyss calling another one, a lot of problems making the situation worse and worse. And today people are living things that they have never lived before. Never. Many people, they are facing situations that are unprecedented in their lives, things and problems that they never went through before. They have not yet realized, they have not yet understood what they are living. So it's necessary for you to identify what you're living, what you're going through, to make this self-assessment. So there are people today who are facing situations that they never lived before. I'm going to mention a few things now. There are people that they have never been so indebted as they are right now. They have never been so delayed in their payments, in the overdraft. They have never been so late with their bills. And these are people who hate the fact that they cannot pay, but they are in this situation, ashamed without being able to pay, delayed and depending on loans. They had never seen so many things going wrong for them. So what is your unprecedented situation? What is it that you are facing in marriage that you never faced before? What is it that you are facing in your spiritual life today that have never faced before? You never thought, you never dreamed going through what you're going through right now. It's a situation that you bit by bit started to see that problem that started smaller and then became bigger, and another problem came, and another situation came, and now you find yourself in this crisis, in this total destruction. So, for example, let me mention to you a situation that we are facing in Brazil. I'm going to read here Joel chapter 1. It is not a text that is outdated, that is old. It's something that is very current. For example, here in Brazil, what is happening in Brazil today? What is the situation of calamity that is happening today, currently in our country? You see the statistics of Brazil, they show a lot of never have happened, a lot of unprecedented situations. If you search the data shared by Serasa, which is the Consumer Credit Reporting Agency in Brazil, they report almost 82 million Brazilians in debt. And this is the higher number ever registered. This is a record in history. In the last 14 months, it has been growing exponentially. And it's currently growing. Each month is becoming worse. So the debts of people has been growing. They never before have been growing. In a country of almost 220 million people, almost half is not in debt. They have not been able to pay their bills. This has never happened before. The statistics that are shared, they show, these are official statistics, that the unemployment has fallen. And supposedly, because unemployment has fallen, we should come to the conclusion that people are working more now, but at the same time that more people are working, how is it then possible that they are owing more? How is it possible that people are working, they are making money, but they have never owed more like they are right now? That means money has been coming in, but the devourer has been taking its part. So the money comes, but the devourer comes together with it. So 80%, this data is from January of this year, 80% of the families are indebted. Another historical record, 80% of the families are indebted. In the last 10 years, the debts of Brazilians have grown in 176% in debts. That means in 10 years, the debts of people have doubled. So we conclude that the prophet who spoke almost 2,500 years ago, he is not outdated. What he said is not outdated. This scripture is speaking about our society in 2026. So the question that I ask you and all of us should make, that is not only limited to our financial situation, but to any area of our lives, if we want to seek a solution, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what is my unprecedented situation? What is it that I'm going through right now that I have never went through before? This has never happened to me before. What is your unprecedented situation? What is it that has happened to you that is unprecedented? What is the situation that you're living in your life right now with your husband, with your wife, with your children, with your health, with your spiritual life, with your finances, with your professional life, business? What is your unprecedented situation? So do the following. If you want to come out of the situation that you're living at this moment, let's start this itinerary by taking this first step. The first step is for you to write down everything that you're living today that is bad, that you have never lived before. What is your unprecedented situation? You're going to write it down, and you're going to read the first chapter of the book of Job. You're going to read slowly. Maybe you're not going to understand everything that is written there, but we're going to understand everything here as we meditate together in the next messages. And you're going to come back here, and you're going to continue to understand about this diagnosis and the good news. There is a solution, because Joel starts speaking about what had never happened before, but he points out to the solution. He points out to the never again. Whatever is happening that is bad, that is evil, will never happen again. So I would like you to join me here in our next message. So do your homework, make this self-assessment of your life, write down the unprecedented situations that are in your life, and we'll see you soon here. If today's video helped you and you know someone that will be helped with this message, pass it on. And if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, subscribe now. See you soon.